So this is Apple's very first USB keyboard. It was originally introduced with the iMac computer and came in several different colors. The layout of the keys is far more PC-like than before. You get an escape key in the proper place, inverted T arrow keys, and a full numeric keypad, although the page up and page down keys are in a weird place. And you get a power button on the keyboard. This was also the last keyboard to have a power button on it. The keys look black, but they're actually a dark translucent, as you can see. The caps lock has a light inside that shines through. The bottom of this keyboard is more beautiful and has more thought put into it than the top of most keyboards. It even has a holographic sticker on the bottom, which stands out much more when seen in person. It does include one big adjustable leg to change the orientation of the keyboard. It has two USB ports, one on each side, so that you may plug in a mouse like a traditional ADB keyboard. But you'll always have at least one port left over, which is great because you can use that port for a USB flash drive or plugging in your phone or digital camera. The new keyboard also came with a brand new mouse. Today we refer to it as the hockey puck mouse. It used a multicolor ball inside, which was interesting to watch when rolling around.
Oh, that one's pretty.
You wake up some mornings and you never know what you'll be doing that evening.
Oh, I like this one.
I do notice that they relocated their locator tab.
This is a decent keyboard. I don't have a problem with it. I'd use that.
This is a stylish keyboard. It's laid out well. It looks really nice. The keys are a little mushy though.
So the new keyboard is very similar to the last one, but they've made it a good bit larger. The main reason was to make room for the arrow keys and a more traditional PC style of keyboard layout. And while the older one did have inverted T arrows, the new one is much easier to use. If you'll notice, the old one has a power button, but that's been removed on the newer one and has never been there since. But we did gain volume controls and an eject button for the optical drive. The caps lock is just like the last one. The num lock actually has a physical light, but it doesn't do anything unless you've connected it to a Windows PC. Like the old keyboard, this one also has two USB ports, one on each side of the keyboard. Now, say goodbye to the hockey puck mouse. With this new keyboard also came a new mouse, and this one is optical. It's like a sculpted piece of art, and the whole thing is a giant button. The underside is not quite as much of a piece of art, but it does retain the logo and one giant adjustable foot.
Yeah, I like the way it looks.
Contrast, you can see the letters a lot easier. I do like a black keyboard. That's something a little easier to keep clean, I guess you could say, or easier for it to look clean.
I like it. It's soft. I could use that all day. Is this backlit?
So, the new version retains the same model number, but the color has been changed to a bright white. They're virtually identical. They both have the same folding foot. But notice the older one has the Apple logo and the newer one doesn't. So again, Apple's been moving away from making the underside artistic. With the new color, we also got a new mouse to match. It's identical to the older mouse, except that it's white. Okay, so here's the next model. It looks very similar to the last, but there are some key differences. For one thing, the USB ports have been moved to the back. Obviously, the mouse still plugs in back there. I actually like this as it makes them easier to use, especially for things like USB flash drives. The caps lock key is the only key that lights up. Num lock is completely gone, as a matter of fact. The bottom is very plain and prone to scratching and collecting debris inside. Notice there are no longer any adjustments to the height.
That's crazy. There's no border. It's just keys.
It's a nice feeling keyboard.
Sounds okay. I'm a little bit more familiar with this, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah. Feels pretty solid, and I could see you kind of getting pretty good and fast on this keyboard.
I could do that. It's nice. It's kind of quiet for having such big clunky keys. I could use that.
So this next keyboard was quite a departure from all previous Apple keyboards. The keys are more similar to what they had been using on the MacBook products. The keyboard is amazingly thin. There's not much to see on the bottom. It does have two USB ports, although they're a little harder to get to than the previous models, but you can still get a flash drive in there. The USB cable is decently long. They moved the volume keys here along with the eject button, and then decided to give us more function keys all the way out to F19 for some bizarre reason. Caps lock is the only key that lights up. So 2 years later, they introduced a miniature version of the aluminum keyboard. Basically, everything from here has been removed, and the arrow keys have been moved down here into this corner. The bottom is essentially the same and still has the same 2 USB ports.
But this is like super uncomfortable for me. How do you type? Like this?
It reminds me of a laptop keyboard, and while those are good to get some really quick work done and things like that,
I don't like this one.
But super thin, so it's easy if you travel a lot.
probably not something I would want to use 8 hours a day.
Yes. This is kind of like the keyboard I use at home. I like it.
Interestingly enough, this keyboard was so popular that there are many fakes and knockoffs being sold online. In fact, I have one of them here. While it does look extremely similar, it's actually a piece of junk. Notice that it has no USB ports, but the main thing is it's just plastic that's painted to look like it's silver. It's actually very flimsy, and the whole keyboard bends when you type on it. You can see how flimsy it is. Alright, so you can see that the official Apple version cost at least 2 to 3 times more than these pieces of junk, and you can kind of see there's a pretty good reason for that. Alright, so there's some things I want to point out about these white keyboards. Now, I think they're very beautiful, but they have a tendency to fade to yellow, especially if they're exposed to any UV light or heat. And they look terrible, and they're a pain in the butt to restore them. And you've seen some of my previous videos on that. So that's one thing I don't like about these. Now, if you have black keys, then that's not a problem. So you don't have to worry about that if you got black keys. Now, I want to say something about these aluminum keyboards. Now, I love these keyboards. I love the way they type, and I love how small and efficient they are. But there is one thing that just really irks me about them. And if you spill anything in them, like even just a tiny few drops of water, and they get under the keys, it's done. It's broke. It will never work again. I've thrown 3 of them away because of that problem, and you can't repair them. They're actually glued together at the factory, so there's no practical way to take them apart and figure out what's wrong. I've seen some other videos of people trying to take these apart, and they just destroy them. So I will not be buying any more of these, despite the fact that I do love them, because they're extremely expensive and they break too easy. So I'm sure people want to know which keyboard is my favorite. Well, I couldn't just really pick one, so I wanted to go ahead and tell you. This one types the best. I mean, I like the feel of the mechanical keys on this original ADB keyboard, but I could never use this for a day in, day out keyboard because, well, the arrangement of the cursors and a variety of other things. As far as which keyboard I think is most beautiful, I think the original USB keyboard, the blueberries, and of course they come in other colors too, but this is the only one I have. But I think these are beautiful pieces of art. I mean, they're really amazing. But you know what? I could probably use this every day, but I'm not going to. As far as actually using day in, day out, I got to give it to the aluminum keyboards. I told you my gripe about these, so I won't. After this one breaks, I'm not going to be using aluminum anymore. But as long as this one keeps working, I'm going to keep using this one. So this is my favorite one to use. Okay, so I wanted to say one last thing. I'm pretty fond of Apple keyboards. I always have been. But the one thing I don't care for is their mice, especially in the last decade. I really hate the Mighty Mouse with this little trackball thing up here. It never works right. In fact, if this keyboard history video proves to be popular, I'm going to go ahead and follow it up with a mouse history video, and I'll elaborate on some of the reasons why I don't like their mice. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little quick series, and I'll see you next time.